All right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of Tater Talks. Our today's guest is Brantzon. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, of course, man.
All right, well, a few questions for you. So it seems like it was a couple months ago that you announced, hey, you're diving in full time. You're going for
Yeah.
this thing. Tell me what that's been like transitioning from a side gig to full time.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been a bit stressful, but really good for the most part. What happened was I started the channel like a year and a half ago, around, and my I just had a daughter. So my daughter's 2 years old now, and at the time my wife was an engineer full time. And I was like, okay, well, on the side, I'll do poker. I'll start this vlog. I had spent my whole bankroll on our down payment for our house and the renovation. So I
Oh,
had
wow.
like, personally in my individual, I had like $3,000 to my
Oh,
name. And I was like,
wow.
okay, well, like I dished out all the money I'd made playing poker on our down payment and the renovation. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I have nothing to start here. And I don't really have a job to rely on. So I'm like, we'll see if I can work this up. I might go broke. We'll see. And that's where I started my vlog, playing like 2-3
Yeah.
with like a $3,000 bankroll, and then worked it up.
Nice.
And but what happened was, like, I was a full time dad, and then the vlog, the business end made more money. I made more money playing poker, and then eventually, a few months ago, or like maybe 6-7 months ago, my wife was like, I'm not super happy where I'm at with my job. Like, I kind of want to pursue like some more passion volunteer stuff that she's more stuff that doesn't make any money.
Yeah.
But
Right.
and
Right.
I was like, well, things are going well with poker,
Hmm.
both on the business end of things and the playing side of things. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, now that I've worked up that 3,000 to a lot more,
Yeah.
maybe we can make that transition. And so she quit her job. I went full time, and it's been good. It's tough raising a family on
Yeah.
just playing poker,
Yeah.
and
I'm sure it is.
but luckily, there is like the ad revenue and other things.
Good.
But it's been really good.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. Yeah, it seems like too. Was it? Something I've always enjoyed about your channel. You've always got something funny in there, and you seemed like you were doing a
Yeah.
lot of the editing yourself. Has your editing grown, or did you hire an editor? Because
So yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I grew up like anytime there was like a school project and there's a video option, I'd be like, screw it, I'll do that one because I don't want to write this 10-page essay. So instead, I'll do like the video.
yeah,
So like, but every program I've ever used has been like garbage programs. Like, I grew up on like Windows Movie Maker, and now I'm
nice.
like using this program called Animatica, which is a $10 program,
Hmm.
super basic, super like, it's not good, but I've learned to be quick with it and like use it for what it can do.
Okay.
And I've gotten better and faster. But there's certain things that I can't do. Like on my recent videos, when the cards come out, they flourish out, the
Yeah.
pot adds up. Like, there's certain effects that I can't do. So I still now, I do all my, like, the first rough cut edit, like with all the humor, with all the images and video clips and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I have an editor now who goes in and does all the overlay stuff as far as
Wow.
the
Sweet.
pot, and the cards and the action, because like that stuff, like, it's not as timing specific for like comedic purposes.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to lose like the personality of my channel by hiring an editor to like go in and just say, here's my script, try to make it funny,
For sure. Yeah.
and so that's how I'm doing it, and it's working well, but it still takes a lot of time editing on my behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. The okay, so I watched. I think it was your most recent. By the time this comes out, it might be your second most recent. But the one
Sure.
where you're at the win and you're trying to win a ticket, and it
Yes.
wasn't like your other vlogs, but it was an absolute blast to watch. What was that like to play in? It seemed like a ton of fun.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. I went into it like the day before. It was like they were like, "This is the biggest meetup game. There's all these names," and I wasn't gonna go. And the day before, I asked my wife. I was like, "Can I just go?" So I looked at flights. I was like, "Babe, flights are like $80.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll be back by night. Let's go." And
Nice.
she's like, "All right, sure." So I go. I book my flight. I fly out early morning, and I show up, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna play against these guys." And and I buy in for a standard amount on the, I think it was a 2-5 game, and then I hear about the tickets they're giving away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are they giving away the tickets? Because there's rumors on my table. No one knows how it's going on. They're like, oh, you have to stack somebody. You have to stack one of these pros. And I was like, oh, that's kind of hard. So I went up to the floor and I was like, hey, how does this work? And they said, no, you don't have to stack anyone. You just have to go all in and get them to call you. Or they have to go all in and you have to call them.
Right.
And I was like, huh, like I could... If people don't know what's going on, I can abuse this and win one of these 4 $10,000 seats. I was like, dude, I could do this. So I table changed right before it started. And I was like, okay, I'm buying in for the minimum.
Yeah.
Because I am going to win one of these freaking tickets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what happened was in the first hour, they only gave away, because they announced every time they gave away a ticket. They only gave away about 4 tickets in the first hour. And I was like, dude, I got this in the bag. Because this is only a 4-hour event.
And you end up with like 11 by the end
I
of
ended
something,
up with
right?
11 tickets.
Yeah.
But what they ended up doing, so like I was like committing to this strategy. I was like, but what they ended up doing was, because they weren't giving out enough tickets and they wanted people to stay for the raffle, they pretty much ended up giving everyone a free ticket.
Oh, shoot.
So, like, instead of having, like, 10 tickets of maybe 30,
yeah,
I had 11 tickets out of, like, 230.
You got to go tell the floor, like, hey, I'm lighting money on fire to get it.
So I was pissed. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah,
but still, it would have all been worth it if I won the $10,000 seat.
For sure.
That being said, for going all in as many times as I did, and still walking away without like blasting a ton of money, I'm pretty happy about.
True. Yeah, it was fun. Not your typical vlog, but really fun to watch as you're just like, all right, we're short stacked, let's go again.
It wasn't the greatest poker, but like if you think about poker, like every poker game, you're going to be thinking about what's the best strategy that I can have to succeed, and it's like, it's not always like playing the best poker, because sometimes whether it's a table you're going to exploit in a certain way, maybe the table's way too aggressive or opening really big, you're going to want to change your strategy. Well, in this one, it's just a different game type where I'm trying to compete for these $10,000 seats. And if they didn't give away tickets to everybody, then I most likely would have won.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really, really quite frustrating because it's $10,000.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's all right.
Oh, that's too bad. All right, let's see here. I think I had one more I was going to ask you. Okay. So I am curious. So I didn't ask you this. I skipped over it. But what made you decide, okay, it's time to try this YouTube thing? Was it a channel that you watched, or was it just, hey, I've got a story to tell, or what?
So I actually played with Brad and Andrew back in 2019 or 2020.
Okay.
So my home casino is the Gardens, which is in LA, and Brad and Andrew used to have a deal with them where they'd come like every month or so.
For the meetups,
and this was before like Hustler started really grinding. This was before COVID. So I played with Brad a few times, and I got to talking with him, and I was like, oh, I'm interested in starting this. He ended up having a tournament, like Brad and Andrew had a tournament where they had bounties on their heads, and I knocked out Andrew, and we chopped on the final table.
Nice.
And so I have a picture of Andrew like flipping me off because I knocked him out. And I was just sitting next to Brad and Andrew. I was sitting next to Brad most all of the tournament. And so I was just talking to him about it. And I actually started my vlog back then, pre-pandemic. So at the time, my wife and I were pregnant. So we were pregnant in pre-pandemic. And I started my vlog, and then the pandemic happened. And I had recorded 2 or 3 vlogs.
Sorry, Branson. Just a second. I got a kiddo knocking at my door here.
Hello, audience. It's the Brantzen Hour, where it's just me solo talking to the camera.
All right, left you hanging there. Sorry about that.
All right, no worries.
The Brantzen Hour, I heard about it.
Yeah. So, so the story was, I filmed 2 or 3 vlogs, and then the pandemic happened and things shut down. But not only that, there were a couple options that I had. However, my wife being pregnant, it was very scary because we didn't know what was going on,
For sure.
and the rules were really strict. So if I got COVID or she got COVID while she was pregnant, we were really worried about things, and especially like the rules of who can be there when you're having a baby and stuff like that. So we were like, no risk. Like, let's be as safe as possible.
Yeah.
And the casino is not exactly the safest place to avoid being sick. But yeah, so that's what. So I postponed it, and I was like, oh man. And looking back, that is the single most devastating move, because like, if I had started back then, there were so few channels.
Yeah.
So few.
Yeah, definitely.
And like when I started, like, there's less than there are now, but like back then I would have been like one of like 10 people doing it. You know, it's like,
and people
insane.
were looking for content at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. How rough did it feel to be like, all right, I'm doing this, and then right as soon as you get started?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like I hadn't, besides filming and sorting things out on my computer, I hadn't like made a full video. So like,
oh, so nothing was out yet.
Nothing was out. No, I had
okay.
filmed a few sessions and had like sorted them out on my computer, been like, okay, planning what I'm going to start. And then it just never started.
Gotcha.
So, it's not so bad. The worst part is just looking back at like, oh man, like I probably would have a ton of subscribers if I started back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just due to like how small the competition was.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about it before we came on here, but it feels like every day you pull up YouTube, someone new, some schmuck like me is trying to get going.
No, I mean, honestly, the community of poker vloggers has always been super kind.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I love everybody. So like, for me, I just like making friends. So if anyone reaches out, I'm always happy to talk to anybody. Happy to see other people succeed. Yeah. Maybe a little bit bitter if somebody passes me, but that's it. Just a little bit of bitterness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, I got a hand for you, and you were talking about exploiting and all that stuff. This is one of those spots where I know I'm in a good spot, but I got to figure out what's the best way to get the money here. So let me run this hand by you. I'm playing 3-5. I've got 2K in my stack. I've got king queen offsuit in the small blind. And there's a limper. The big blind, he sat at the table, he's been there 3 orbits, and usually like we'll say, oh, this guy never folds. And obviously we're exaggerating. This guy has not folded a hand since he sat down.
Right.
3 orbits in, he's played every single time.
Okay.
He sat down with 1,500, he's down to 350, something like that. Okay. So he's bleeding chips pretty fast. And let's see. So I made it $30.
So one limper and it folds to you in the small blind?
Yep.
Okay.
So I make it $30 here. The table's been, I know he's going to call almost anything, so I'm going to go a little on the larger side. So I go $30, and he makes the call. The limper makes the call. So we go to a flop, which is pretty nice, of king of hearts, queen of hearts, 10 of clubs. And I bet $50, so I'm betting just over half pot here.
Half pot, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm expecting him to call with quite a bit. So he does. He makes the call. The limper folds. So now let's see. At this point, he's got $250 left in his stack.
Right.
But chances are, I mean, this guy has been calling down with anything. But the flop, like I'm covering the king and the queen, so he has to have the 10. The turn is the 10, and so he's got some flush draws. Maybe some small pocket pairs. And this guy's also just been in there. Like, if you show weakness, he'll sometimes pounce with, like, 9-4 offsuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, on this turn, with a guy who is in there no matter what, I end up betting small. I bet 50 again, which is... I'm going really small, but I'm trying to figure out...
Yeah.
I don't know.
He has, at this point, he's, like... 250 basically left?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And the pot's like 200.
Yep. So So if I could
So
go.
you bet small to figure out where you're at.
Well, I
Like
mean,
if he would raised you with a 10 or something like that.
yeah, exactly. Like if, but
Mm-hmm.
I almost think like if he's raising, this is a good card for him. Again, he's been raising with like complete trash,
Mm-hmm.
and then tabling it for whatever reason, just to show the table he's got balls or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think if he raises me, it's a decent card for. I mean, he might have it, but it's a decent time for him to represent something with his air balls.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, I don't know. So like, what's? Let me ask you this before we talk the hand through anymore. When you've got a guy like this and you're in a hand, you've got a good made hand.
Well, okay. The first thing is the turn is the most disastrous card. You just don't want to see it. I mean, like you don't want to see a heart. You don't want to see like an ace. You don't want to see a 9. There's kind of a lot of bad turns, but this is not a good turn.
No, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
but he could still have hands like Jack Queen, King Jack. You know, he could have. I don't know if he 3-bets with Ace Jack or something like that, but you know, there's some. I mean, Ace Jack is really bad, but there's some things that he could have. He could have Naked Jack, you know.
Yeah.
But he also could have Jack 10.
Yep.
And that could be really bad. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky spot. If you guys were deeper, then I would say check.
Yeah, I agree.
I would check and evaluate. I might, as nitty as it sounds, I might even fold. It's just such a bad turn, depending on what his sizing is. And then but his stack being so small, makes me just want to be like, personally, there's a little part of me that just wants to rip it.
Okay.
Because, you know, he could still have some hearts, and like the problem is his stack's just not. It's not big. It's not big. So essentially, like you need to win. If you get stacks in, you need to win like 35% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you are, maybe you're not, and like maybe I just rip it and deny equity from like hands that he doesn't want to call, or if he is going to call with a draw, he can call, and then if he has better, it's just, I don't know, say la vie to your money, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a difficult situation. So what ended up happening?
All right, so I end up making the bet of 50, and he makes the call. So with the call, I'm assuming there's no 10, right? Now we're probably on a draw, or not that it can't be, but the way he's been playing, when he's had it, he's been putting the money in. So So I'm feeling like I'm okay.
Right.
So he ends up making the call. We go to the river. The river is the 8 of clubs, and I'm like, okay, how do I? If I check to him, he might pile.
Mm-hmm.
He might make a call of a small bet with like a, small pocket pair or something like that if I bet really small again. And if I jam, he's going to fold a lot of his worst hands where I've seen him throwing money, throwing the rest in with his wild, just speculative garbage that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So I end up taking a really weird line that I wouldn't normally do, and I bet 50 again.
Oh, okay.
Which I wouldn't normally do this, but against this player in particular, I'm like, I think I might be able to get him to like pull the trigger with something that isn't there, and he does. He puts the rest in. So I end up making the call, and he shows 4-6 of hearts. Which I almost think, would you just check there instead of betting the 50? My thought is like I can get some thin value from the hands that might call.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even though you have King Queen, right? There's the Jack out there. So there's 4 Jacks, there's 2 Queens and 2 Kings. So you're gonna have 8 combos of King Jack and 8 combos of Queen Jack, all which he's definitely gonna have. And those hands are gonna call off a small bet.
Right. Right.
So I don't mind that. He like at this point he has like a little over 200. I might bet like 100, so maybe a little bit more. But I mean, yours ended in the best result because he had busted hearts and he went for it. The thing is, like, if you bet 100, he's probably not going to go for it with busted hearts because he is.
Right.
But even if you bet 50, it's like going for it when you only have that much.
Yeah, the price is so.
It's a pretty gutsy move. You know, I mean, like
it is.
He's just really hoping that you have like a busted draw as well, and like
I know.
And you're making a move, and so he's making a move with 6 high. So yeah, I like I said, for those reasons, a lot of times I just, with his stack, I might just jam the turn.
Yeah.
Because like I'm just gonna charge any draws maximally, and like with a $50 bet, like I don't mind it, but it's you're giving a really good price to all the draws, and there's a lot of bad rivers that can come out.
Yeah, you're right about that.
There's a lot of things that make one-liners to straight that kind of make you go like, ugh, you know.
Right.
So I just kind of want to get the money in there, and like when you bet $50 and he raises, like, are you gonna fold? You know, like it's kind of hard because like if you fold the turn, he only has like 200. You know, so it's tough. You know, because if you bet 50, he has 250, and the pot has 200, and then he goes all in for 250. Well, now you're having to call 200 more to win a pot of 700. So you're gonna have to win. You only have to win there 28.5% of the time. Yeah. And it's like, so like then you still like you're still probably gonna call. So like if he has a 10, he's probably gonna get your money anyway. Yeah. Unless you really are like, okay, I will fold if this guy jams. And like I don't think I would have, if you wouldn't have, then I'd be like, okay, maybe I just jam the turn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
With his stack size. But I don't mind your play, and you got more money than I would have gotten. I mean, he might have called anyway if you jammed, because he's like, certain people are just like, whatever, like, let's go. I'm a short stack, let's gamble, you know. Yeah. But he might not have, you know, who knows. Yeah. But you ended up getting all the money, so it was good.
I did, but I looked back at it and I went, I'm not really happy with the way I played it. I think you're right. I think a jam on the turn is pretty solid. My thought was like, I'm just thinking of all the like ace highs that he's called. I've watched the guy like call down with ace high with. Yeah, like, it doesn't make any sense, and I think I got so focused on the weakest part
ace
of his
high
range.
Hands, right? Like a jack comes out,
I know,
straight, an ace comes
or he
out,
hits the ace and then counterfeited. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So I don't like my line. So,
but I don't think it's I think the thing about poker is like there's so much variance. Like who's to say? Like it's all subjective. You know, like
sure.
It's you can have better players who might be like, oh, this is how you should play it. But like if you watch any like live stream with super pros, like there's always creative lines. There's always new lines that always surprise people. So it's not like one best way to play something, and you got all the money in, and that was good, and I don't dislike it. I mean, like with a $50 bet there, you're going to you're, like I said, you're probably going to call off any 10 anyway, and you're keeping a lot of hands in. You just have to decide what you want to do on the river if the river gets really ugly, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I think I was so focused on how do I keep his trash hands in that I really did leave myself pretty vulnerable there to like a terrible river and then making a bad decision, you know, where I'm like, well, I made it this far, he could have anything, and just convince myself like, oh, I have to make this call when I maybe shouldn't. So I like your play of just getting it in on the turn and not having to think about it.
But that's just like stack sizes. If you're any deeper, then it's like it gets more tricky, you know. Sure. So like for me, like I purposely play a lot of, like in LA, there's a lot of 100 big blind poker. So like a lot of times I'm working with like, and the game I play in specific, the max buy-in is for 80 big blinds. So like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a pretty nuts game, but it generates a lot of action, and I'm used to these stacks, which is not necessarily the best. There are some players, you know, they say like the better you are, you just want to play as deep as possible. But like I find that with my play style, where I have my biggest edge is at like 100 big blind stacks, because 3-bets have a little more respect. I can narrow ranges, and for me, like a big part of my game is deduction on what I think they have.
For sure.
And a big part of my strategy is 3-betting and being able to narrow down their range, because when they call my 3-bet, they're only going to have a certain amount of hands. So I 3-bet wide, knowing that people under 4-bet, and then I can heavily narrow their range. And depending on how they react on later streets, I can very, very meticulously say, okay, they should have only like these 2 or 3 hands.
Right.
And then I can react from there.
Yeah.
But like the deeper you play, that game tree opens up, and like say you 3-bet, like when I play in Texas and I'm playing won 3 where the average stack is $3,000.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so
Anything's
I 3-bet.
live. Yeah.
I 3-bet, and now I get 4 cold callers.
Yeah.
And I am like,
Yeah.
I don't know what their ranges are.
Mm-hmm.
They could have anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's why this hand stuck out of my mind is when I can't hand read as well, like against a guy who calls every single time, regardless of what you raise to, I kind of I found myself flailing just a little bit, being like, what do I do because he can have everything? So, yeah.
Right.
Good thoughts. Huh. So, when you're playing that game, are you really, I know you're 3-betting wider with, does that come from, I guess I read a book by Alex Fitzgerald a while back. I don't know if it comes from his school of thinking, or how did you come into that 3-bet strategy?
A lot of just experience, like I've like looked at different things online. I've done a couple of different courses, and I've had like a coach in the past and different things, but that was more kind of what I saw in the LA scene. I saw like very few 3-bets. I saw 3-bets being very respected. And I saw like no 4-bet bluffs. So if there's no 4-bet bluffs and people are going to respect your 3-bets, then 3-bet more.
For sure.
And I also like being in control. Yeah. And I also like having the range advantage and being the aggressor. Yep. I don't personally, my method of poker is not passive. It's like I want to attack you, and I want to be in control because I want to be getting as much information. Yeah. If I'm playing passively, I'm going to get a lot less information. For sure. If I'm the one making the bet, they have 3 choices, right? They can fold, they can call, and they can raise. Yeah. And so those 3 choices are going to be, clearly if they fold, that gets out of the way. But if they call or raise, those are very different things, For sure. And then if they raise, what raise sizing are they taking? Yep. And I can deduce a lot more. Yeah. If I'm playing the passive side, they're going to bet or check. I'm going to get less information, I feel like, from them. Yeah. So I'm always looking to narrow ranges, figure out what they have, and put max pressure on them. Nice. In situations where I think it applies. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like, because I'm playing 80, 100 big blind poker, it's like sometimes I'm just like, if I get it in, and I just get it in, and there's only so much bad that can happen, So when you're 3-betting in 80 big blinds, you're probably getting to flops with super low SPRs consistently to where you have a limited decision tree anyway, right? Yeah. So it's a much more limited game tree. Like I said, a typical open in my 5-5-10 game is to 35. I'll 3-bet to 105 with a stack of like 800 to 1,000. Yeah. So that typically on the flop, there's a lot of small bet sizings. Yeah. Depending on the flop, and then turn, pick up equity or have a good hand, barrel hard. Yeah. And then just pray that you're gonna win.
So you commonly hit the flop with like a 4-1, something like that. If you've 3-bet, and then you can really put max pressure with a turn bet because they're basically deciding for their whole stack if you want, right?
A lot of times on flop, whether I have it or not, like a lot of times I'm going to pick a small sizing in a 3-bet pot because stacks are shallow anyway. Yeah. And then they might fold right there, and then I'll take it down. Right. Or they might call, and I might have a monster. Or I might have nothing. Right. Or I might have backdoor something, and I might pick up equity. Right. So on the turn, if I have something good, then I keep barreling. Or if I have good equity, keep barreling, you know. And then if I have nothing, I can give up on the turn. Right. Unless I really want to be a psychopath. which is occasional, depending on the player. But, like, for the most part, like, I either want to have decent equity if I'm barreling the turn or have a good hand.
How often do you push the psychopath button?
Not often. Not often. I rarely airball bluff.
Yeah, me too.
It's only if I have like a read on the person.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like that's very like most times I'm playing on like cruise control. Like I spent a long time playing tournaments online. I played like 1,300 tournaments in a year.
Wow. Jeez.
when I was grinding tournaments. So like I'm very like used to clicking buttons and like being like, okay, I know what to do.
Yeah.
And I still try to take my time so I don't give anything away, but I'm used to that. And so like in a lot of these spots, I like know what I'm going to do. And it's only like when I have an exploitative read that I might like really, really, truly differ from what I might do normally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But lately, I mean, I have been trying to like be more creative with my game style and stuff like that. And it's worked out in certain ways, and you know, it's been fun.
Cool. Nice. You had a hand as well?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. We're playing 5-5-10.
Okay.
I have like $1,000.
Okay.
So I'm like 100 big blinds deep.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm in the small blind with 10 jack of clubs. Very nice hand. The under the gun, low jack, cutoff, and button all limp. 4 limpers.
Okay.
So, first of all, what would you do in this situation? You're in the small blind with 5-5-10. There's 4 limpers. You have 10 jack of clubs.
I'm not limping. So, 5-5-10. You're in the small blind, so you have 2 left to act behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to push so many people out here if you're going to raise. You're going to be out of position post-flop. I was thinking 5-10, but 5-5-10 makes it a little different. You get no information if you just call. I don't know. I guess I'm of the opinion of like I don't want to go 6 ways to a flop, maybe 7 ways.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of people would call with a lot of suited connectors and things. They're scared to raise it up because if you raise it up, you're going to have to raise it kind of big.
I was going to say you got to go pretty big, but I think you have to, right?
So, like, 6 ways, I think or like with 4 limpers, I think a decent, some people would just limp. I don't like limping.
I don't know.
Because, like I said, I like to take things heads up. I don't like playing, I don't know, bingo poker. Like I'm not trying to play in 7 way hands to try to have the best hand.
Right.
I'm trying to play in like me versus one other person and either have the best hand or push them off the best hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like in 7 ways, you just have to hope that you win the lottery, you know? So anyway,
how big did you raise? Because you got to go pretty big.
I raised to 75.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically how I construct my sizings is my base open in a 5-5-10 game is 35, and then I'll add 10 for each limper, and then a lot of times if I'm out of position, I'll add another 5 or 10, and sometimes I won't. This time there was 4 limpers, so like I figure 75 was still a decent amount, especially when you're playing like $800 effective or $1,000 effective. Or, you know, like people don't really want to be calling $75 that often.
Right.
So anyways, just the under the gun limper calls.
UTG calls. Okay.
So now we have like a little less than 200 in the pot.
Okay. Yep.
Flop comes out, king of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 3 of hearts.
King of clubs, 10 of diamonds. What was
3
it?
3 of hearts.
3 of
3
hearts.
of hearts.
Okay.
So
not terrible.
My first inkling is this guy shouldn't have ace king.
Right.
He shouldn't have pocket kings.
Right.
He probably shouldn't have pocket 10s. Could have pocket 3s. So like he's not gonna have like too many like super nutted hands.
Right. I agree with you. Yep.
Whereas I will have ace king. I'll have pocket kings. I'll have pocket 10s. I won't have pocket 3s here.
No.
I shouldn't really. But yeah, I'll have some of those. So I end up. It's a rainbow board. Favors me, like I said, and especially in these elevated pots. I bet small and I see what happens.
Okay.
So I have a range advantage. I lead out for $65, so about a third pot.
Okay.
And I see what he does, and he just calls.
Okay.
So now the pot is like 330, something like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little less, and I'm thinking, okay, most likely he doesn't have it. Like bottom set frequently raises there, so probably doesn't have pocket 3s. King 10
probably doesn't have 2 pair. Yep.
probably doesn't have 2-pair.
Right.
So he could have a 10 like me, maybe like ace 10, queen 10, jack 10,
Jack
10 9 suited, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He could have a king, like maybe as good as king queen off. Some people limp. King jack, maybe king 9 suited, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Turn is the 2 of clubs.
Okay.
So now I have a flush draw along with a 10.
I don't think I asked you, Branson. What was his stack?
He had me covered.
Okay, he covers. Okay.
He had me covered. So turn is the 2 of clubs,
Okay.
and that brings in a flush draw for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you do here? There's 330 in the pot. What would you want? Like personally, what is your thinking?
I mean, I don't think the flop is so dry that he's probably going to call a 1/3 bet pretty easily. I don't know that he's going to hold on to a second barrel, and you've just added equity. He will probably call you with if he has something we have to ask ourselves if he's ever going to limp king queen or queen king jack. It would maybe the offsuit variety, and if he's playing scared. Do you have any reads on the player? I don't think I asked you.
He is limping quite frequently. He is raising, but it seems like he's raising with really good hands. So I think he will have king queen, king jack.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. That's good information. Okay, so I mean, if he can have a strong king here,
but I don't think he has ace king though.
Yeah. Okay.
I think his strong is king queen off. I think he'd raise king queen suited.
King queen suited. Okay.
But he might limp king queen off or king jack off.
Yeah, I just don't think he's gonna hold up to pressure extremely well based on the board, and I don't think he's gonna have the flush redraw very often because he's not gonna have a lot of ace high that's hit this board unless he has exactly like ace of clubs, 10 of hearts, or something like that.
Well, I have the clubs.
No, what I'm saying is he can have ace of clubs. Yeah,
3 of clubs, like ace 10 of clubs or ace 3 of clubs or something. He could have ace 3 of clubs.
Yeah, ace 3 of clubs, I guess.
But it's very specific, yeah.
But I'm thinking he doesn't really have I guess what I'm saying is he shouldn't have an ace high flush draw very often, right?
Yeah, unless it's ace 3 of clubs. That's about it, yeah.
Yeah. So, which then we got to look at what he could have. He can't have queen jack because you have the jack. So I mean, he doesn't really have much for the clubs. So I don't think you have to worry about him sticking around with the club draw very often. I think if you bet 60%, you're probably going to get a fold a fair amount of the time. That's probably the line I'm taking with a plan to if he's gonna call here and we don't get anything that's scary or adds to our hand on the river, we might need let's see. We're probably going to put in a bet on the river anyway. So do we want to go? Let's think about that. Let me ask you this: if you're going to bet the turn and you're planning to call the river, you're typically going to take a lead on the river, or do you like to check call? Because the check call line, I guess, it's so rare that we're going to get raised without them having the absolute nuts.
If I bet turn and get called, I'm probably checking river.
Check and try to get the showdown.
I still have a lot of showdown with my 10.
You do.
But then I'm really just hoping he has jack queen or something like that, But if I bet turn and I get called, it's tough because do I really want to blast away with a 10 when I have showdown on the river to try to bluff him off a king,
Well, but I mean, let me ask you this, because if we're gonna check to him, are we calling a bet if he bets on the river?
Maybe not.
Okay. If we're going to fold, then I think
depending on the river,
okay,
jack river, 10 river, club river,
okay,
of course.
Okay.
Yeah. But and that's still a decent amount of cards. That's still 14 cards,
Yeah.
So 14 cards are improved.
I'm just thinking if I'm in his position and I have a weak king, say king 9, I'm trying to think of if he doesn't, we're not going to give him credit for a set or a 2 pair here, then he's got to be holding on with like a very capped range, right? Like king nine, king jack, like some hands that, and we have one
Yeah,
of the
like
jacks,
I said, like yeah, he could. I think right now the hands that I'm most likely putting him on are Jack Queen,
yeah,
King Queen, King Jack, King Nine suited,
yeah,
and then also like Ace 10 off,
yeah,
Queen 10,
yeah.
something like that.
So if we
Or 10 Jack like me, could have
yeah,
same hand. I mean,
so like,
again, like I block, but it's not impossible. Just because you block, it takes away like
for sure.
3 combinations of that hand, you know. So
For sure.
it's not like every combo of that hand.
But I'm just thinking like let's if we reverse the roles and you get a raise to 75 pre, you make the call with say king 9 suited or king jack suited, whatever, you know, king jack. You hit a
See,
king
but like
here.
if I were him, I'd never be in this situation because I don't limp.
100%. I agree with you.
So,
I agree with
so
you.
that like limits my, you know, because like now if somebody wants to raise me, it means they're 3-betting.
Right, of course.
And
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and because people under 3-bet, I fold to a lot of 3-bets.
Yeah.
Unless I have a good hand.
Yeah, I do too. So let's say
I'm not going to have king jack off if somebody 3-bets.
Let's say somehow you were foolish enough to get yourself into
Sure.
this spot. You have king jack, and now you've got a guy who raised to 75 pre with all this money in the pot, and he's gonna triple barrel you. Are you holding on for 3 streets with king jack? I'm not personally.
Yeah, but I mean it can be tough, but people, I mean, I think there's a lot of people a lot more call happy than I am.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, no. So I thought like he's gonna have Jack Queen a lot here. He's gonna have a king a lot. I block a 10, but he still will have some 10s. But most 10s that he have are honestly beating me.
Right, exactly.
So I figured if I bet the turn, I'm getting called by Queen Jack. I'm getting called by any king. Any king is going to continue on this turn. It's a brick turn.
Right.
And I think some 10s might continue as well. Like Ace 10 might continue. Depending on, I don't know how exactly he's feeling, but I also block a 10. So I didn't really love betting here.
Okay, I can see that.
I figured I'll realize my equity. If he wants to check back a king or a 10, I can see a river, hopefully hit 2 pair, hopefully hit a flush. I still have a decent amount of equity on this board, but I don't want to be, I'm not trying to like completely inflate the pot here.
Right.
Especially when I don't think I'm fold. The only hands I think I'm folding out are some of his 10s.
Okay.
So like Jack Queen, I'm not folding out, and any king, I'm not folding out.
Okay.
And I block the 10s, right? So like those are the hands that I'd want to be folding when I block it.
Sure.
And I can realize my equity, and so I check because I don't think he's gonna fold to a single bet unless I like really blast off.
Okay.
Like if I go like over pot or something like that, then yeah, maybe he folds a lot. And he bets 220.
Oh, because he has position on you, right? Okay, he bets 220. Okay. So he goes for the 60%.
Or even more.
Pot's 330, right? Or do I have that wrong?
330. Yeah, it's like 330. So he goes 220.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe like 60. What is that? 65%.
Yeah,
2/3 maybe.
66, 2/3. Yeah. Yep. He bets 220. Well. Yeah, I mean this is a king pretty often here.
Uh-huh.
I mean, let's see. You have 9 outs on the flush. You've got 3 jacks left and 2 10s, but 2 of those, so you've got 3 extra, so you've got 12 outs. I don't love the spot. I don't love it.
Yes.
So I am probably gonna let this one go to this opponent because if he's got a king and he's happy with it, and he's sticking around, I'm probably making the fold. I'm curious to hear what you did.
Yeah, no, I think folding there is completely fine. When taking this line, I think you could have bet the turn. You know, I don't think betting the turn is a bad thing. We do have equity, but like I said, a lot of times now when he bets this, I put him on a lot of king queen,
right.
king jack,
right,
maybe king nine suited, maybe something like that, but probably a lot of king jack and king queen if he wants to bet this sizing.
Yeah.
But like I said, like that's pretty much the strongest of what I put him on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's gonna have very many two pairs or sets.
Mm-hmm. So you blasted.
So I raised to 600.
Wow. Okay.
And then he tanks and then flashes a king and folds.
Yeah, I mean, so
because it's super strong. Like people don't like raising the turn or even when you get raised on the turn or the river, a lot of times they're gonna have some nutted hands.
Yeah.
You know, and I do have a lot of pocket kings, pocket tens. You know, that could play this way for sure.
So let me ask you: do you prefer the check with the check raise potential over betting into him because you're going to protect your range more that way? Is that why you like it?
Well, the reason I did it was because, like I said, I blocked the 10,
mm-hmm.
and so any king is going to call a bet.
Sure.
But a check raise, a single king with nothing else going on is going to have a really hard time.
For sure.
Right? Unless he somehow had king 10 that was like slow played. Right? So if he did not raise me on the flop with king 10, well, at least then I still have outs to the flush, which is not that much, but like I have some. But yeah, like most kings are going to be in a very, very miserable spot there.
For sure.
And then if they want to check back with a king, then I get to realize my equity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And then if they want to check back with the king, and then the river comes out and it's a brick, then I'll just check again and probably check fold.
Right. Okay. No, I like that line. That's cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
But I thought it was an interesting hand because I'm uncapped.
Right, and he's capped.
Well, he's very capped.
For sure.
You know, and he's really just not going to have the strongest hands there.
Yeah.
And he's just going to be miserable when he gets check raised.
Oh, I like the check raise.
And so I figured, like even though I have like showdown and stuff like that, I'm still like when he banks that bet, I'm really like not beating anything.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
Like unless he's really trying to go with it with like Jack Queen or something and like really wants to hit aggression or something like that. Like most times I'm just not good.
Yeah.
So I have to hit, and so I don't want to call, but I can rep something really strong.
So when you made it 600, you left yourself with what, 200 behind, something like that? Yeah,
there's like a little over 200 behind.
So what are you doing if he rips it?
I call.
Yeah, okay.
I can't fold.
Yeah,
I can't fold. So, but
so why choose the 6 over a jam?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's I don't necessarily think that jams are always the strongest. Like sometimes I'm scared of the min clicks or the small raises, you know. But either way, I'm committed. Like it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
But it just seems more. It seems more arbitrary sometimes going all in than picking a size. And a lot of times I will just go all in. But sometimes like picking a sizing shows like, okay, I'm making it a little less than triple. Like I'm wanting him to call.
Yeah, you're begging him to call you. Yeah, no, it's good.
But like whether that changes anything or I mean, a jam is in essence the same thing. The only thing is like if he just calls the 600, then I just give up on the river.
Right. That's the best.
Then I save myself 200 and something bucks on the river.
Okay,
but if he jams, I gotta call. Like
for
I
sure.
have too much equity to not call.
For sure. Huh. And do you? I like your line a lot. I just want to talk through the other line. Like, do you think that's getting more respect than going than triple barreling because he's bluff catching you way more? Whereas in this scenario, you're like, "Ha, I gotcha. I sprung the trap." And
yes, I think bets are called much more frequently than raises.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Raises on the flop a lot of times will get called. Even those get folded. But on the turn or river, like as an exploitative fact, it seems like most people are either going to be raising on the turn or river. Like the turn with either a really strong hand or a combo draw.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like those are typically the only things that I'll see raised on the turn, like 2-pair hands, sets, and combo draws.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just going to be like air balls at that point for the most part. Sure. And if you get raised on the river, 90 something percent of the time they have really strong hand. Yeah, and it's just whether your strong hand is better than their strong hand, and if you don't think so, you get out of the way.
Yeah.
And until that changes, and until I'm proved otherwise, then, and I've learned that lesson time and time again, where I go, maybe he's trying to make a move this time, and I call, and then of course, I lose.
Yeah. I played some 5-10, which was like 5-10-20 at the series this year. And I found myself multiple times being like, okay, these are better players. They're going to bluff more often. I should bluff catch here. And like, I was wrong every time pretty much. So
no, it's tough. It's tough. People don't like raising on the turn or river with nothing.
Yeah.
They, especially the river, like a river raise is bad news.
Yeah.
I had some situations. I had a vlog where like I was playing at the Bellagio 5-10, and I had, what was it, like, I can't remember, like 6-8 of clubs or something like that. Anyway, I had the flush, and then I hit the flush on the river, and I bet, and then he raised all in, and then I ended up calling, and of course he has the ace high flush.
Right.
But like,
right.
But like in my head, I tanked for like 3 minutes. Like, you have that freaking ace high flush, you have it. And I said that to him, and then I showed him my cards, and of course he has the ace high flush, and I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, what else do you have here?
Yeah.
The flush comes in, and you're still raising me on the river.
Like, right.
But I mean, I fall victim to that all the time. It's hard for me to let go of certain hands. And, but I had like one of the lowest flushes that was possible.
Right.
So even if you had the jack high flush, you wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And there were, so it was,
yeah.
Unless you had like, there was like 2-5 of clubs. If you have like 2-5 of clubs, then I win.
Right. I do find myself from time to time, like, I know I'm beat, but I'm talking myself into the bluffs they can have. Like, I'm such a good player. I can identify all these things that they can be bluffing with.
I love a good hero call.
Yeah.
And sometimes it costs me money. But I think I've gotten better at sniffing out when I should hero call. But still, I definitely find myself too tempted sometimes to hero call.
All right, best hero call you've ever made that comes to your mind right off the top of your head.
Trying to think. I don't know. They all kind of get blended together. I mean, I recently had some nice, like bottom pair calls and stuff like that. I can't really think of any like specific, but just a lot of like, most of my honestly, when I'm hero calling, it's normally not for stacks. So it's normally like in like $200, $300 pots. Maybe like $150 bet on the river or something like that. It's not, like, the reason I don't have like one specific is because I'm never in like a $4,000 pot with like ace high,
right?
Hero calling,
Right.
It's never like some highlight reel like that.
Yeah,
because I'm not even in those situations. Like, I'm not floating with ace high, like, and bloating until the plot bloats and then going with the call.
Yeah.
And if I do, like, if I am floating in a big pot, it's because I have like the nut flush, and then it's like, do I really want to call when I'm blocking the bluffs?
Right.
So it's like, then I'm not going to be hero calling either. So So it's never for me a huge pot. It's always like these $200 to $400 pots, something like that.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, dude, thanks. This was fun. Tell people where they can find you and how they can find your channel and all that. I'll link it in the description. But
I'm Brantzen. It's spelled BRANTZEN. So BRANTZEN Poker on YouTube. Pretty easy. As long as you can spell my name right.
And then anywhere else they should find you or follow you or anything?
I'm BRANTZEN Poker on everything, on Instagram, on TikTok. My preferred social media is YouTube, but I do it all.
Yeah.
Instagram, you'll see me just mucking around, posting wherever I am at, playing, whatever, just memeing, just being goofy. I'm kind of a goofy guy, so it's just what I do.
Yep, it's good content. Trust me, it's worth a laugh most of the time. So definitely check it out.
Sometimes I make a joke that I'm like, that was not funny, but we got to move on.
No,
I'm not going back and re-editing it. We're just going with it.
Yep. No, it's good stuff. You have one of the better channels out there, so I hope people check it out and give it a watch because it's good stuff. So.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here, and really appreciate it. It was fun. So.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Yep.
Bye.
Take care. All right, bye.